From knocking out an NBA superstar who turned a boxer to defeating a real MMA fighter with one punch, these are Jake Paul's greatest moments that shocked the world. Yes, Jake Paul made history as the first YouTuber to have an important impact on the sport of boxing. Many people expected him to lose, but each time he defeated opponents of rising stature, he silenced those against him. Now let's find out how he managed to take down these elite fighters. In his debut professional match against Aniston Gibb, Jake Paul repeatedly outweighed Gibb and broke his nose with hard strikes. Paul's remarkable victory was not stopped by Gibb's aggressive style, which was characterized by a bombardment of hooks. It's crucial to go back to the beginning of the battle in order to understand how he was able to win. Gibb is a pressurizing fighter, but Paul takes a different tack, gradually dismantling his opponents and waiting for the right moment to land the knockout. This bout was a test of patience for Jake Paul because inexperienced fighters frequently lose control and start fighting after missing a few punches. This was Gibb's plan, as he sent a flurry of punches at Jake to put him under pressure. Paul, however, calmly displayed his superior fighting intellect by withstanding the assault and waiting for the ideal opportunity to land the knockout. Paul wouldn't be rattled, so he didn't need to go into hiding mode, and Jake Paul responded with a jab, hook, and straight. He skillfully employed all three in this match to overcome Aniston Gibb. Jake kept his distance, utilized hooks to hold Gibb at bay, and tossed jabs to divert him by precisely positioning them. He struck at the right time with a crushing straight that did a lot of damage and knocked him out. Jake repeatedly drove Gibb's nose into his head with his rear straights, forcing the referee to stop the fight and awarding Jake a TKO victory. Now, before we show you the next moment, please subscribe to Push Play Videos and like this video to enable us to give you the more exciting moments in the world of sports. Next, we get the highly awaited encounter between Kryptonite Nate Robinson and Jake Paul, which was regarded as one of Paul's funniest fights in his career. He was brought on by the fact that the commentary was provided by hip-hop legend Snoop Dogg, and the fight involved a blogger and a former basketball star. The story had all the markings of a comedy, but Robinson's situation wasn't as comical as he had hoped. Like Gibb, he charged at Jake as the fight began, but he was unsuccessful in landing a strike. Jake quickly displayed his prowess in the ring by outmuscling Robinson in the clinch. Snoop Dogg also joined in the fun by making comments about basketball shoes.
Yeah, he is. He coming in. Look at him. Whoa. Slow down, nephew. He got on basketball shoes.
But just when everyone was having a good time, Jake caught Robinson off guard and delivered a nasty knockdown. Everyone could immediately see Nate's lack of familiarity with the fundamentals. You must defend yourself if you charge at your opponent. Yet Nate continued, leaving himself open to Jake's strikes. Just as it had occurred when he attempted to approach Jake, there was another knockdown that followed. Once more, the basketball player wanted to get away, but the blogger was determined to win, and Snoop Dogg performed a song to celebrate the knockdown.
Take my hand.
Holy God up!
Lead me on. Let me stand.
Wow! Thus, a knockout was the outcome of this odd and amusing bout. Jake demonstrated that a blogger is a better boxer than a basketball player, and even Snoop Dogg found the finish of the event to be less amusing than it had been earlier. Now, our next moment is what we call Jake's biggest test to date. Many believed Woodley would return with a vengeance after Jake Paul surprised the world by winning the first bout, but Paul had other ideas. Paul concentrated on Woodley's body from the first bell, landing jabs and check hooks, holding Woodley in a clinch and attempting to wear him out. As MMA fans are aware, Woodley and exhaustion go hand in hand. Paul's approach was to deliver hard left hooks that Woodley couldn't avoid. To effectively weary Woodley, reduce his attentiveness, and distract him from Jake Paul's deception, more body blows were used together with additional clinching to wear him out even more. This resulted in a knockout that ultimately forced Woodley into retirement. Paul proved his fighting IQ and silenced his detractors by defeating the former champion. However, after defeating Woodley, it was inevitable that Jake and Anderson Silva would fight. Jake faced the greatest fighter in UFC history, making it the hardest battle of his career. Even at the age of 50, Silva was still capable of defeating every other YouTube boxer, including Jake. As he cornered and tormented Jake, who was fighting a stronger boxer for the first time, Silva dominated the early rounds. However, Silva had a vulnerability in close quarters that Jake took advantage of. Anderson was famously knocked out by Chris Weidman in close quarters when he wasn't treating the fight properly. Anderson had a history of taunting his opponents at this range. Because Silva was too strong from a distance, Jake kept stepping into the clinch in an effort to defeat him close up. The pinnacle of this plan was when Silva was brought down by Jake. There were numerous arguments about whether Silva had thrown the fight at that point and whether the match had been fixed in general, but anyone who knows boxing would tell you that the result was predictable given Jake's strategy. Ben Askren could not have slipped our minds. Let's look back at the day Jake faced a real opponent who had a 19-2 MMA record. At this important point in his career, Jake was still only known as a blogger and not the fighter we now know and respect. It was an intriguing matchup because Askren was a well-known wrestler and a skilled fighter who always engaged on the ground. As soon as the battle started, it was evident that Ben cannot be considered a boxer. Even a loony like Gibb would have had the upper hand. Ben was just Ben, attempting to chase Jake while fighting in an MMA stance and missing his attacks. All Ben could do was attempt to clinch and exhaust Jake, but there was no possibility. It looked like he was doomed to become just another highlight for Jake. Jake began repeating right straights after spotting Ben's weakness. With one hit, Ben held out, but with two hits, he fell. Jake once again silenced his critics who will never stop writing comments like, "Give him a real fighter now." Thus, never dispute Jake Paul. That being said, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Push Play Videos and like this video as we continue to give you the best content in the world of sports. Thanks, and see you next time.